Alrighty, so I have some free time. Fortunately, I am here at my office and I love making videos here. Most of my videos are made in my car or out in nature, things like that, and it does feel good to get back home and to make some videos here next to my books, near my snake, my pets, you name it. A lot to talk about. I don't have much time right now. I've got some things I need to get done tonight, working on a book. I've got to exercise, going to do some weightlifting, some resistance training. Might even get out on the bike tonight, even though it's already 10 p.m. I might go for like a 1 a.m. bike ride for an hour or two. I really do like doing that. I do have about 4 cups here of clean filtered water. I put about 5.5 grams of sodium bicarbonate, also known as baking soda, in this, and the juice of 1 whole organic homegrown lemon. A teaspoon, the amount of baking soda, the exact measurements were about 5.5 grams. So I do recommend that you get yourself a little pocket scale so that you can weigh and measure certain things out here. I always like to weigh exact proportions in my nightly smoothie. I usually put 5 to 10 grams of spirulina in my smoothie, about 15 grams of brewer's yeast, 10 grams usually, 5 to 10 grams of the Arriba Nacional Fina de Aroma cacao, the raw cacao powder, and I put 300 milliliters of my nut milk in my smoothie. I usually use 1 to 2 bananas. If I don't have bananas, I'll put about a cup of organic blueberries in my smoothie. I do like blueberries, however, store-bought blueberries aren't sweet enough for my liking, and they're usually way overpriced. So where I live now, I mean, I can go down to the grocery outlet, which is like a bargain market. That's what they advertise it as, and I can get myself a big bag of organic bananas for $2, or usually what they'll do is, if they're super ripe, if there's a lot of black spots on the bananas, which is how I like them, they'll only charge you $1, and that's enough bananas to last me a week or more. So I've developed my own system over the years that's easy to follow and is actually relatively cheap compared to many of the protocols that people are following out here. I mean, it can cost so much money to be a successful raw foodist living in this matrix. I favor a vegan diet with a lot of focus on super extracts, super herbs, certain teas, clean water, heliotherapy, also known as sunlight therapy, solar gazing, and a lot of other things like circulatory herbalism, cycling, you name it. So again, I've developed my own system over the years. I love following it. I love following it because I've made it so simple. I've designed it so that it's not so dogmatic that if you make a mistake you feel like you should punish yourself or that you feel bad. No. My system's all about, if you make a mistake, you learn from it and you use it as fuel to do better in the future. And if you make another mistake, you dust it off. You know, I mean, there's no point in beating yourself up. The very fact that you even care about your health enough that you want to augment your lifestyle, augment your diet, and increase the amount of circulation in your system, get more exercise, drink more clean waters, that's enough that you should pat yourself on the back. Many of us vegetarians, raw foodists, vegans, liquiditarians, you name it, we don't give ourselves enough credit. We're way too analytical and way too critical of our own selves. And you know, it can be stressful enough being plant-based, knowing what's going on in factory farming or in the factory farms. It can be stressful enough as a plant-based individual seeing all the sickness around you, and the last thing that you need to do is beat yourself up. So my system does favor, you know, retraining your mind so that when your ego tries to punish you and throw you off course, you pat yourself on the back, dust yourself off, and reward yourself for the mistake you made by learning from it and going forward. I'm not saying that this is a mistake-based system that you can go out and just be an idiot and do whatever you want and do bad things. No, but when it comes to health, as long as you're trying, you're good. Even if you make a mistake and binge eat one night or have some dairy, I mean, you want to do your best, but it's difficult enough as a vegan or a vegetarian, raw foodist, you name it, in this crazy culturally indoctrinated zombie world that resembles the Twilight Zone. So Self-love is the pinnacle of my system. Everything revolves around self-love and caring for yourself. And, proof of that is the fact that you love yourself enough to change your diet and do some of these things that many people consider extreme, even though they're very, very common sense and very, it's crazy to me that we live in a world where veganism, vegetarianism, and excluding animal meat and animal products from your diet, it's crazy that we live in a world where that's considered by the masses as being extreme. And not only extreme, but many of the people out here, most of the culture views this diet as being nutritionally devoid of vital elements to keep your protoplasm, your physical body, healthy. So many people, many meat eaters, their automatic go-to line is, where do you get your protein? And it's just insane. Once you realize that there's more protein that's more bioavailable in many of the plant-based foods, it all comes down to cultural conditioning and the fact that most people that claim that they need animal protein don't even know what protein is scientifically. They don't even know what protein is made out of, the constituents in it, but they claim that they need it. So usually what this comes down to, if you really funnel it down to the core, is people like creating excuses to justify their actions. So, you've been taught since elementary school, kindergarten, you name it, that you need animal meat. You were programmed with the food pyramid. The food pyramid. Come on, people. I'm not going to get into that right now. But, you've been clinging on to this irrational logic since you were in utero. In fact, many of us were in the womb when mom was eating animal flesh. And that's not to judge our parents, no, but I'm just saying that this stuff goes back very, very deep, or very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? We've been plugged into the animal product thing for a long time, is what I'm getting at. Again, most of our mothers were consuming dairy and animal products. That's just the way it is. But, I think that's why so many of us have such a difficult time letting go of consuming animal products too, and I think that's why many vegans and vegetarians end up going back to eating animal meat, because there's this deep psychological fear based on all the years of consuming it and all the programming through the dietary propaganda in schools, etc. There's this deep fear that many vegans get, that they're not getting enough nutrition from the foods that they eat. So, but when you really look at it rationally, the cow eats grass to develop its muscle tissue, yet you eat the cow to try to gain more muscle. Wouldn't it make more sense to go, okay, the cow that has a ton of muscle got its muscle by being a raw foodist? Look at the muscle definition of a horse. Horses eat greens. That's all they eat. Look at what gorillas eat. You don't see them complaining about where they get their protein, no. But we've been taught a illogical system that makes sense to us now due to the fact that we've fallen in love with all the excuses, because it feels good to eat meat. It numbs you to a large extent. All the growth hormone, antibiotics, and vaccines. So these are just my personal opinions. Again, I lived over 20 years as an animal eater. I ate tons of yogurt, you name it. And I can say without a shadow of a doubt that letting go of that stuff really did increase my spiritual life massively, to the point where it's somewhat difficult at times to live in this crazy world doing all this stuff. It's one thing to be a vegan, it's one thing to be a vegetarian, but it's another thing to approach diet with the desire of it stimulating evolution within your physiology and within your consciousness. So there's many vegans who eat desensitizing, numbing vegan foods, vegan junk foods, but there are those of us who eat a very clean diet filled with phytonutrients, vital elements, minerals, trace constituents, fulvic acids, humic acids, you name it, raw, real pigments. And these foods do, in fact, at least based on my own experiments on myself, stimulate the dormant spiritual faculties within man's higher consciousness, and it does create a upstir of spiritual energy within the spinal system, also known as Kundalini. And this is a very intense energy, and many people can't handle it. And I think that's also why many people go back to eating meat, because meat breaks down so slowly within the system. You have to use so much of your digestive fortitude and fire to break down these animal fleshes, the protoplasm of beasts, that it actually dampens the movement of the spiritual energy up the spinal shaft. So I know so many people who have tried a vegetarian diet, tried a vegan diet, tried a raw foods diet, and they felt ungrounded. They felt like they were going out of their minds. And I mean, it does make sense to me that after years of being programmed that you need these certain foods, these animal foods, that when you stop eating them, subconsciously you have these engrams lying behind the conscious mind screaming at you to get back on the meat, or that you're doing something against your body, and it's just insane. But I am indeed living proof that you do not need animal products to sustain yourself and to have a balanced, joyous life here in this crazy dimension that we call Earth, which I call hell. But just a little rant here. I'm going to wrap this one up short. Again, drinking some baking soda and lemon water. I like to call this real lemonade. I don't sweeten this drink ever. I like to try to avoid as much sweetener as possible. Lately, I've been sweetening my morning coffee. Usually throughout the year, 10 months of excuse me. I'd say 10 months out of the year, I don't sweeten my coffee. Probably even 11 months out of the year. I do not regularly, sweeten my coffee. I do sweeten my nightly smoothie that I have every night after fasting. But other than that, I do try to stay away from sweeteners. And if I do use them, it's stevia extract. I never use sugar. But I don't want to talk about that because I recently discussed that in a previous video. Tonight I had some of the habaneros out of the garden. These are so hot. These seeds right here, the seeds are where the real heat is. The flesh of this habanero was actually incredibly hot, but to eat all those seeds at once, your mouth would be numb for about 5 to 20 minutes, depending on how much peppers you eat. And the beauty of fruit, I mean, look at all those seeds. Those are potentially all new pepper plants if I were to germinate these. So that is the beauty of nature. The fact that it's designed to actually multiply and multiply and multiply. It's infinite. So that I heard someone walking outside the window. I'm going to wrap this one up on behalf of the Sacred Starseed Serpent Uraeus YouTube channel. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope this video can help inspire you to do something for your health today. Peace be with you.